Oh, wrong way. Oh, wrong way. Okay. So, whew, it's getting hot. It's hot out here already. In Las Vegas, it's over 100 degrees, I'm sure. But anyways, I was going to go on and talk about what, just what a FAPE is, just what a free and appropriate public education is, because it's something we all need to understand, that truly it's what we need to understand. It's our responsibility. So I will say that the public education system has always been here. And as a parent who raised 3 children in the public school system, I accept the responsibility and the challenges to ensure that those children made it. So all of my sons graduated. And all of my sons graduated above proficient, I must say. But what I will say is that the offer of a FAPE in America is a free and appropriate public education. But what is that? I'm going to tell you what it is, because the bottom line is a modification of behavior. And the outcomes for that modification of behavior are determined by the involvement of the community that is protecting or ensuring that that access or the support happen, truly. And so since we came into the game late and truly fighting to integrate into a system that did not want us, and here we are, integrated in America, living where we want, basically where we can afford to live, and living in our box, not venturing outside the box. Life happens outside of the box. It doesn't happen inside the box, and it's happening inside this box that I'm talking on right now. But this is where life happens. So when I'm looking, and I was able to come to Las Vegas, and it was a blessing. I'm seeing it as a blessing, because I had 30 or more years participating in the education system in Sacramento, California. And Sacramento, California being the capital of the state of California, a lot of the governance and actions came from the political involvement around the community. Now, even though we didn't have a lot of black people who were engaged in public politics, truly we have a substantial amount of educated black professionals that live in Sacramento, that participate. But what we don't have is an educated populace that understands that we are responsible for the outcomes that happen when we invest in our country. And we invest because we have people in the military, we have people in the armed services. I mean, we are part of America, and America is wonderful. I am an American. I cannot identify any other way, because any other way would do me harm. So truly, as an American, I had expectations of never receiving the letter grade of F for my children. And so therefore, my children did not receive letter grades of F. Now, I can't say I understand what was going on in Sacramento City Unified School District when so many children were being promoted without making a maintenance of effort, without meeting basic level educational standards. It just, a group of children. And then for Sacramento City Unified School District to be disproportionate, that means a abnormally large group of children being identified as special education who were African American. And then for people to have a problem with getting on the yellow bus. Well, let me tell you something. The yellow bus is a Cadillac in public education, simply because it allows you to have an education the way you need it, not necessarily the way they would like to provide it to you. You have a right to do a maintenance of effort. You have the right to know if it's working. And so therefore, I was educated because I got to learn that the importance of being in America is to show up. Even if you don't have time, you have to show up. So here in Las Vegas, coming to Las Vegas and willful defiance being a major issue in the state of Nevada for African Americans. And I can understand that would be an issue for black people in America, simply because we come from a heritage of willfully defining, trying to escape, trying to fight for freedom, trying to establish who we were. And we are a force to be reckoned with when we understand we have rights. but it's all about the law. And the law is not public policy, y'all. Public policy is how y'all do it, or how we do it as a public. The law is the Constitution, what gave us the right to be sitting where we are today, and what actually is happening for us as people. Because you see, we're not showing up. We haven't established a lane that we actually participate and we control. But the lane has always been there, because the data demonstrates, just like any other person or any other human being, all humans have to get to a certain point before they can move forward. And the data demonstrates exactly what needs to happen to ensure that access is happening. And we know how it works. I mean, we understand education to the point of my son, who they said initially when he was born, because he was born and he was fine, I thought, but then he just didn't speak. He just didn't talk. I didn't understand how come he didn't talk. He understood what I said and what I gave him instructions to do, but he didn't come out of his mouth, and then that's when I learned about autism and all of those other things, but it was just slowly. It was a slow learn. It took 23 years, but he graduated above proficient with a one-on-one aid and a laptop. And I'm just here to say that there is nothing wrong with the public education system, except for the people who failed to show up to ensure that they get their serving, at the dinner table, basically. And so here in Las Vegas, they had a 259% behavioral infractions, higher than any other ethnic group in the world, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a number that I couldn't imagine, because it wasn't broken down. It didn't say this many children had special needs, or this many children had a criminal behavior, or this many children. It was just it lumped in one thing. For black people, they had a 259% higher suspension expulsion rate than any other ethnic group. And so then, the real deal is okay. We do have to understand truly where we are in America, and just how it happens. And how it happens is that you have to be able to do task completion. It's not about the grades. It's not about the academic content. We're not measuring the maintenance of how well children are doing. Because if we held ourselves to that basic standard, well, there would be a problem, because it would really document that all children do not have access. And for those who don't, or being used, we are only this is 2020. So in 1964 is basically when he integrated the system. But understand all the people who have jobs to provide services to those dysfunctional people, and how we have to keep on bringing that level of dysfunction to ensure that their retirement is paid. And then we understand how much money is really put in public education. Look, they brought the the LA Raiders. Who were the Raiders? Oakland Raiders? Okay. Part of California, they brought to Las Vegas. They brought their families here, y'all, to look at the educational system. Okay, well, we can do it for people who come here and understand how to get something out of the system. But for the people who have been here for generations, whose families don't have little or no skills, there's been no opportunity for educational standards to understand how to hold the system accountable. Meaning that they brought the resources to the area and they didn't train the people how to utilize those resources. So yes, there's educational systems and programs in place here, but for the most part, people who look like me are not in those programs, not benefiting. But people who don't look like me, people on the other side of my hand, right here, not this side, but this side, are taking full advantage of magnet programs and Head Start programs and early Head Start programs. Because if you didn't know, Head Start has a preemie infant toddler care program written within the federal law to take care of babies who have early needs, to determine how to provide those essential supports from the federal government, directly from the federal government. All you have to do is be income qualified. But guess what, girl? Man, whatever. They go up to 28% of the poverty level to accept people who don't qualify and for the poverty, the poverty status. So they're just taking people and excluding the fact that those people over there, wherever they're living over there, are still in poverty. And then they have so many alternative programs that are not educationally based. Because like I said, remember, the FAPE is a modification of behavior. It's not an academic one. And if your people in the community are not measuring the maintenance of investment for your people, then guess what? Who else is? Everybody who got a stake and, a stake on your back, kind of like. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody who has a piece of the action. Because nobody, including us, we have a lot of famous black people that are included in the race. You get me? You got to hear me. We have a lot of famous black people who are included in the race, who have no way to ensure that everyone in our race is benefiting. Why? I don't know why. They pay taxes. They pay more than what we pay, but they pay those taxes. And so when I started listening to the young people, like I never listened to Nipsey Hussle, but man, that young man was gifted. He just changed the game when it came to the music industry. He started promoting his own records. I don't even think that his music was being funneled through America. I think it was coming through Canada. And as I start sharing information about our history and about James Baldwin and, Malcolm X, but, the copyrights of these informational videos are through Canada. But there are black free people over there, free-born people in Canada who are free, who don't need the lesson that we need. The lesson that we need is that every soul is a valuable soul in America. And quite frankly, we're looking for those souls to step up so that we can represent them when we look at the outcomes, because it has to be the educated people that speak for the data outcomes. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand how come we have a black caucus that can't look at the investment nationwide and talk about the lack of outcomes in the large cities where our people are, where our people flock to have access to employment, but only find that there are limited resources that mandate that they stay at the level that they are, impoverished, so that they can qualify for the programs. Come on now, it's not a joke. It is a joke, isn't it? Because here I am, 64, but guess what? I finally got free because I'm free. I'm living with my mama in this house behind me. And that's called freedom, because she owns this piece of property. She might not own the land, but she owns the building, the box. And I'm in the box with her. And I don't have to worry anymore. But I still worry because I still have my sons. My sons who have the ability to procreate, but have not procreated yet. But what I'll say is that I have family who have to live in this world. And they have to live in a free America, one that values all of the people, not just some of the people, one that allows the voice of reason. Why are we still arguing the basic fact that our mothers, black women's children, sons, black men are being murdered? Black women, our people, are being murdered by law enforcement who say we fail to comply. Compliance comes from slavery. Compliance comes from slavery. We were the only enslaved people in America. There are people that want to make a big deal about this issue, but the issue is that we still don't have a voice in the outcomes of the maintenance of effort that we all pay for. Because whenever our young people are paying over $100,000 in taxes and revenue to America to provide services to the people who look like them, well, where's our voice? Because those people certainly have been threatened with the obligation to continue in their lavish life or speak out for people who look like them. Everybody has a role and you have to stay in your lane. So if just because you're an elected official doesn't mean you're an elected official for the black folks. You're just an elected official for Americans. Hello, Americans. And you represent Americans. But other Americans who look like me need to show up, need to come to the House. And even if you can't come to the House now, you need to write your Congress member. You need to write your city council person. How is it that Sacramento City Unified, Sacramento City, the city, is making available some of that Promise Zone money right now to people who look like us, but they've created the barriers in which to participate in the funding. I mean, we're still not talking about how public services have alienated our community, have denied employment basically with our people in the public service sector, because we have so many people who are not employed with city, state, county, any agency that receives direct funds from tax allocations. No, we're dealing with third-party people who have been awarded grants, scholarships, money that would go to sustain, upward bound progress from the people who are entitled to the right to have the resource. And that's the part of capacity building, I guess. I mean, they're building up their family structure. Because believe me, the people who get those large contracts don't really look like us, and they're supporting their whole family on neglected and delinquent. Hell, there are 15,000 homeless youth living on the streets of Las Vegas every night. 15,000. I can't imagine it, but there are all those hotels down there, all of the, social, people are providing services down there. So I guess there's a lot of sex trafficking. And so I guess there's money being provided to people to help people get through sex trafficking, to redirect their life. But guess what? I'm going to start where we started from the beginning, the FAPE. So if a child's not making progress in elementary, by the 3rd grade, they're on that road to sex trafficking, prison, because we have a nation in the whole world. We are incarcerating more humans in the whole wide world. Right here, America, who fights for the freedom, who sends people to die for the value of voting, who deny the power of the vote to the black people, because they're the ones that came in late to the game. People don't think like me, and I don't expect anyone to think like me. I can't think like other people because you don't know where I've been, and I don't know where you've been. But the places that I've been, where they have made the decisions on how dollars flow into the school system, I've been at both ends, all the way up and all the way down. So I know that the outcomes are measured by the local community. And if the local community never show up, there you go, And like I said, the behavior modification is the only offer of FAPE in which the federal government guarantees. It is a behavior modification. Now, if it has to do with academics, and that's where you feel your child should be, then that's where you need to be on the road to ensuring that those doors are open, because it becomes a personal responsibility. You know what I'm saying? It's up to you to ensure that you do a full educational evaluation to determine where that child is. It is up to you to ensure that if your child has a behavior problem, that you address those behavior needs, and that the district has provided the support to ensure that transitional services happen for your baby. I mean, because all behavior is learned. We are just human beings. So we are tempted to mimic behavior that's going on around us. So don't think if you are in your house and you cussing and you don't give a shit and fuck this and fuck that, and hear your children going to the schoolhouse saying fuck this and fuck that, and how do you think that those people who have never heard those words in their life have to deal with your disruptive child outside the door? For years and years and years, when I raised my children, and my children were in Sac City Unified School District, you see, I'm 62 now, so that was a long time ago. But Every time I went to the schoolhouse, and I went every day, there was a black child sitting outside the door, sitting and waiting to be invited back in. Well, guess what? There is no obligation to ensure that that child ever had the right to learn the task because he refused. You understand where willful defiance comes in? They have 30 or 40 kids in the classroom. They cram them all in there. They're not trying to teach to all of them. They're just trying to teach to the willing. So here we are in the living state of the willing. And I'm a willing participant. But I want you to all understand that the freedom to live in America comes to the freedom through the freedom of choice. Everybody chooses and everybody chooses. And it's your choice that will lead to independence. It was your choice to follow the battle. It's your choice to ensure that yours made it. And if you didn't, well, honey, that's on you. There are so many people that have positions in power. And, you know, their children have been locked up. They serving on the big hill. My children have never went to jail, and I don't ever want my children to be incarcerated. I never have went to jail, and I just don't see myself getting out there being a willful participant in the protests to demonstrate what? I'm not showing anybody how to do anything because I'm out there, standing there, putting myself at risk. I am showing you, however, that the price of freedom comes with the ability to, you know, open up your mind and go back and listen to James Baldwin. Go back and listen to Malcolm X. Go back and listen to Martin Luther King. Understand they came from different perspectives. There are so many other people out there that are teachers, and I don't know all of them, but I have listened to so many of them. And Dick Gregory was just my heart. I got to meet him in my lifetime. And it seems like he was such an old man, but he was a teacher. And he taught through, you know, stories. I mean, you have to be able to see the vision. You have to have vision in order to create the dream. I don't know where our vision is. Our vision doesn't lie in freedom. Our vision may lie in, you know, hey, all the music. I mean, you know, Marion, I love that young man. He has a great voice. But all of his songs are sexual. Strictly is just about having sex. And so is all of our music is so corrupted. And, you know, that's, I mean, you know, you can't think about screwing 24/7. Not when the real issue's out there. Not when we have now 8-year-old children who would prefer death than to have to face another peer who would call them a name. And how the, you know, the word nigger really does affect some people. But quite frankly, I could care less how you see me. The real reality is I'm an American. My dad served in the Air Force. My stepfather did. And, you know, I mean, I have known truly my heritage, and I don't know who I'm connected to, but I am a field Negro. I don't have to ask for permission. I can act. I can read. I can comprehend, and I understand the public education system was established on the backs of the public. And because black people are in the entertainment field, they are paying some serious federal taxes that come back to provide all of these wonderful services. And I do know one thing. When they're not educating the children, they are working on the landscape. And understand this. We have nothing but contractors in public education. You know, they have to have a toilet. They have to have a mirror. They have to have a window. They have to have a, you know, all of the things that you have to think about going into the purchasing and building of schools, air conditioners. I mean, think about the people the engine of public education takes care of financially. And then understand why these white people, I'm sorry, are pretty pissed off because their free child care is going away. And see, we didn't have that free child care because we were always struggling for a place to put our children somewhere where our kids could be successful. And we found ourselves more running away from structured services because the rules were so rigid, our children couldn't function in them. And so transition is real. But see, I learned not to run. I learned to fight because life is about exploring your rights, reading the law, understanding that we all live under the same roof, one world, you know, same sky. And as long as we live under the same sky, the obligation is that we all function the same way, especially since we have so many gifted entertainers. We have more black entertainers that make more money, I believe, than white people. Because our music is just, just so. Even the funky music, come on now. Snoop Dogg got a record. He said he's living his best life. He ain't got time to deal with you niggas. So what do we do now? Smile, bitch, smile. So, okay. So we party to that shit too. We do. I can't say we don't. I'm living my best life. Ain't got time to deal with you niggas, right? But Nipsey said, we need to come together. We need to look at what they've done to us as a people with our own money. They're killing our people with our own taxes. We pay them to oppress us because for whatever reason, we don't know how to comply. You see, compulsory laws mandate that we participate, that we pay our fair share. Do you feel the fair share? Do you feel the fair share? Because even they regulate who sees you, who follows you, how quickly you come up, control. And so I found that going live on my phone, even though if I can't see who's there, who's actually, in the room, I can't see the faces and I can't share the conversation, but it's okay because it's a limit. There are limitations. But guess what? There's no limit to this. And so, I started this morning talking about a FAPE, listening to Malcolm. Malcolm X has the bullet or the ballot or the ballot or the bullet. We could choose, but either way, it is a choice. And we can live in our box. We can pretend how public, how none of this truly affects us. It's hot out here. I'm trying to get some more sun. I don't see any more light. And but we can choose how the positioning of oppression of the rules, because we don't write the rules, but the rules are written. And it's so important to understand that you need to read the rules so that you can see how the rules are applied. You see, the rules apply to everyone. And I'm just trying to say, in public education, the rules to apply to all the people, all the subgroups. So we would expect to have some of the similar outcomes in education as all other people, because we are just humans. But if you would like to go down the road of perhaps we are not human beings, are not looked at as humans, then perhaps that's what we should be looking at. Because I can move my chair, but I really don't want to be in the sun. I'm trying to get more sunshine, more light. But the whole thing is that this is America. And America means that you're an American. And as an American, you were born free, right? But what is the value of your citizenship if you never exercise the right to vote? If your voice is never heard and no one can hear it beyond your head? That's a small box. Everybody has an opinion. My grandma used to say everybody got an opinion just like everybody got an asshole. And that's real. So we have to understand that we all live different lives. You didn't come with me, I didn't come with you. I cannot say what you know. And I cannot say what the level of opportunity was to engage in the production of support services for all children would have been. But I do know this. I had one child who was gifted in gait, as they call here in Las Vegas, GT. And I had one son that was non-specific disability. That just meant he had a processing disorder. So it was the way he heard things in a room, and believe me, those were all learned skills, and he learned how to work within that scope of how he needed. And it's like a bag of tools. It's like once you learn it, it's yours. It's like luggage, it just follows you. And then I had one son who was autistic. And so, but they said, I gotta slip out here for a second, it's hot. They said, when we start school, they said, oh, he's the psychologist. It's amazing. But the same psychologist that initially did the assessment for my son was the one who did the exit assessment for my son. And so, it was an amazing thing that he had to realize that he was so incorrect, because he said my son was severely mentally retarded, communication handicapped, and just would not ever learn or be able to, benefit from public education. He graduated with a one-on-one aid, a laptop, and above proficient, and he don't need no more English. He has executive functioning skills. My sister's on Marco Polo, and I'm on. It's her birthday. I want to say happy birthday to my sister, my baby sister Lydia, because she is my youngest baby sister. She's the baby in the family. No, she's not. Michael is the baby. But hey, she's the baby girl. But anyways, we're all getting up there and blessed to still be here. And what an honor and a blessing it is to have lived my life. Because quite frankly, I sat on the Alliance for Family and Community Partnerships under West Ed. And West Ed is a Western Regional Center that actually provides services to Nevada. Isn't that amazing? But I'm seeing that the services and the people that are coming here to do work and provide support for local districts are on the fringe. They're not providing the mandated requirements. They help them finish the law, help them fudge where they've been going for a long time. Here in Nevada, this is an urban and a rural school district, all in one conglomerate thing. They have 330,000 students, and it's still a lower number of African Americans. But for African Americans, they don't have any data that would demonstrate that the maintenance of effort for the neediest and the youngest child, because we're going to look at the poverty factors, how we actually fund public services. We're going to look at the youngest and the neediest children and determine how those services are aligned to the community that they should target. But that's the problem. They're not aligned. They're aligned to the structure of services. It's just that people who look like me are not in those programs. Very few. So few. My goodness. But when they do start school, they are starting below. And because they're not starting where they should, there's no transition point. It's just not a possibility if you're not at grade level to enter a grade level and achieve. So, when COVID hit, it just knocked the socks off of so many people. They couldn't believe it, that God would create an event. It was kind of like, I'm sure that is how people feel when they're caught up in earthquakes and typhoons and all these God events. You know what I'm saying? How could God allow it? But I think we allow it because we have all the technology in the world. We could prevent some of these things. Some of these things that turn out to be so disastrous, we could change some of these things. But do we? I don't think that's the focus in America. The focus in America has always been on greed, entitlement. So anyways, here in Las Vegas, it's so important to understand how they equally share all of the dollars from the federal government, and every child gets the same allocation. Now, isn't that amazing? Not that you generate more money, because you're not generating any of the federal dollars if you're not in poverty. I don't think it targets you. It does give, however, additional resources, but really they're targeting the neediest and the youngest, the bilingual, and all those federal support groups that they help a state provide support services to. So anyways, irregardless, when I'm knocking on the door, trying to come in to where the conversation is happening for my people, well, it's not happening in the NAACP. Truly, it's not. Not here in Las Vegas. I was told by the person that is over the NAACP here, Roxanne, that I would not be accepted to share any of my concepts or ideas or basically talk to her unless I came through them. And that means I had to do a lot of whatever in order to talk to them. And guess what? God didn't put me here on this earth to try to do that kind of stuff. I lived my life, and I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I'm still here, and My importance is that the way that I had an opportunity to benefit from the public education system is the way that I want my children to benefit from the public education system. So therefore, I want people working with my children who actually love my people, and who actually can function in our communities. And so what we see is a lot of documented evidence of our children just willfully not wanting to participate. And then you could look at the high schools. I guarantee you the kids are not doing homework, or so many of them don't have any homework. I don't know how you can be enrolled in the public education system and not have any work. So for the ones, it's the sheer number of people who are not required to participate, basically, to support themselves. They can't, quite frankly, because they're not at grade level. I think we know exactly where all of our kids are. We can measure the maintenance, the data is out there, but for kids who are at the 20 percentile in reading and math, what happens for those kids year after year when they continue to attend school? There's a concern because the level continues to rise and the children stay flat. And so Sacramento City Unified School District just Z-coded the curriculum, and that meant that the teachers are supposed to bring the curriculum to the students in a manner in which they can understand it. But guess what? No teacher has the time to do that kind of thing. The majority of her class is all scaffold up and down, the support, whatever, depending upon what side of town you came from and depending upon what level of access you actually had. And it's just years and years and years of being involved that I can see all of this. And I can say, as I was out there, like Patricia Adams and a few others, there's not that many. There's not that many black people who are engaged in the public education system, yet these are the ones, so few of us, are still trying to figure out how we can affect change in the public education system, because they're never going to put us out there to be the ones that are leading and directing and engaging with our families to share the pathway of success. It's just not going to be us. So therefore, we have to take it upon ourselves to empower each other, to step out there and perhaps, figure out programs that are working, share information, share thought processes, and understand that we all have a personal responsibility to the outcomes of the investment in public education, because it really leads to independence, it leads to transition after high school. It leads to employment. You don't go your whole life, or you start your life. Who wants to work at Burger King for the rest of their life? But we know we have people that are my age still struggling to survive and working at Walmart and McDonald's and Burger King and working hard. You know what I'm saying? And even when they're in the public school system, I knew just way too many young mothers, single parents who have part-time jobs in Sac City Unified School District of 2 and 3 hours. Just 2 and 3 hours to keep them below from making, permanent, to keep them from getting benefits. And understand me when I say they retire them after 20 years. Now see, this is criminal. They retire them after the same opportunity that they had to retire. You're working and you're doing more work as a staff person, as more work than an administrator. Administrator's just fudging the data so it goes in. But you're actually a hands-on person. And guess what? You retire with less than $300 a month because you never work more than 2 hours a day. But you work more than 2 hours. They just paid you out of grant money. They just lumped all that money together to make you a full salary. They played the game. But you still invested your time. You still invested your service to help build what? And that's what I'm saying. We, as American people who understand the game, have to be positioned to have a conversation just about what we've learned over time. And what I have learned over time is the people who are playing the game figure out ways in which they can maintain their livelihood. And that's just the bottom line. We're talking about public education, so we're talking about how People have to sustain their lives. I mean, this is the only option, one way. This is the only time you have to do it. But when you're putting out people who cannot function, it impacts the city. Look at the homeless problem in California. They're not educating their people. They couldn't make programs fast enough to deal with the dysfunctional people because there's just not enough money. So they start incarcerating them. Okay, but people still have lack of communication skills. I mean, there's everything that is involved with the basic fundamental needs of a human that have to happen so that people can communicate effectively, ensuring that life happens. And we are just not doing it as a people. I mean, there's no lane. We need to participate in the lane. So COVID happened. Thank God COVID happened. And now we can really say that we need to develop the lane. The conversation must happen as to how we do outreach to all of our people, and that we can ensure that the tools of maintenance happen, that we can ensure that children are benefiting. Because see, data don't lie. And this is direct data from everybody who has a opportunity to make a little bit of change right now, who would create a program, who could demonstrate that they're benefiting someone, you know what I'm saying, during that maintenance of effort. It really is real. So I would encourage more people to, hey, do what you do where you were doing it, but now do it online. Because our people still need to do the outreach. We still need to have the votes in. We still need to have the representation. We have to understand that God only gave you this and this. A brain and a mouth to speak it out of. That's what you're blessed with. And however you learn to use it by facing all those challenges is how you will be rewarded. And truly, it is a reward to understand that you can do the advocacy necessary to ensure that your children are successful. At least as successful as can be, but this is a time of COVID, so this is a time of reckoning. And visually, we can see that they had created a system in which they were sustaining themselves, still on us, not releasing us, not giving us in my live stream. So anyways, I'm just going to say that the important thing in life is just to remain visual. Don't shy away. Understand that no change will happen without us, and that we have the power to bring about this level of change because we've all been there. Maxine Pepper, I mean, there's just so many people that I know. All my Emerge sisters, because I went through Emerge in 08, and a lot of my Emerge sisters are serving on boards and commissions. I'm still finding that a lot of the work is still down here with the people. My people have to understand that there's power in organizing, but there's more power in understanding the outcomes from the investment of our tax dollars. And that's so critical. So even if you've never shared an interest, you must, pick up your cell phone or pick up your tablet or your computer, get online, inquire as to what's happening in the community for children who perhaps didn't have that level of parent involvement, but you understand the importance of it. And so, because now you can reach back, everybody's stuck in the box. Make the box work for you. Don't sit back and do nothing. Sit back and use this time to understand just where we live and understand James Baldwin. Nothing's changed. And Baldwin's still living in the 70s when I graduated school. So I'm saying that I didn't know who he was, and that's a problem. Because I didn't know who he was until just recently. Because I had to slow down enough to understand that I have to educate myself to know that we've done all of this before. We don't have to continue to do this. What we need to do is to come together to talk about the outcomes of the investment and where we would like to go. So I'm going to end right now. And I'm going to go live, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, but no more today, I don't think. So until I see you again, because I'm not going anywhere until, I'm gone. Y'all take care. Bye. This is DA out.